what would you do for the price of love? You know, we see at sporting events that John 3:16, the phrase, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son." We bandy it around and we toss it around and we kind of play with it a lot. We use it in a lot of different situations. This whole idea of entering into God's love. Bottom line is, because God so loved the world, he offered his own son, his life, for us. That's the bottom line. Everything else is window dressing. Everything else out there points to that and only to that. Now, you're probably sick of hearing me say that the noise, the little trickle that comes from our baptismal font fascinates me to no end. That was not part of the original idea. It kind of melded in as time went on. But there are a lot of days when I'll come over here in the middle of the day and just sit quietly to pray. And I'm the only one here except for the baptismal font running. And that little trickle of water into the basin resounds off of these walls. These same walls that have heard the prayers of many of you over the past 54 years that this building has stood. These same walls that have heard the prayers of your parents, of your children, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, those that have come here to celebrate life, those that have come here to mourn death, and those that have come here simply to pray. The water of baptism has run through each and every one of our lives since the day of our baptism, whether we were baptized as young infants or whether as adults. Here we are on this fourth Sunday of Lent. We have just a little bit of time left between now and the Feast of Easter. Now and the day when, in a very solemn way, we recognize that Jesus so loved us that he gave his life for us, left himself to us in the Eucharist, embraced his own death, and rose in glory. I often chuckle a little bit when we talk about baptism, in particular, with kids or with the people that are preparing for baptism. And we have 8 people in our parish that are currently preparing to be baptized this coming Feast of Easter. And very often, when they are coming up out of the waters, we'll say, and we want to give them a big round of applause as we welcome them into our community. No, we don't. I mean, we're glad they're here. That's good, that's important. But they're not being welcomed into a club. This isn't an extension of Corral de Tierra or something like that. They're not being welcomed into a club. They didn't have to jump through hoops to gain membership. But rather they have been immersed in the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And have been baptized in the life of the eternal God. We gather here at St. Joe's to celebrate that. And we're glad they're here. But this is not membership in the club. This is eternal life. And we get it. We enter into it by looking to the cross. When Nicodemus raises that question with Jesus in tonight's gospel, how can we be born again? Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert. And scholars have always seen that as a prefiguring, a looking forward to the lifting up of Jesus on the cross. We gain life by the way that we look to the cross. We gain life by the way that we raise our eyes to the cross. We gain life by the way that we are incorporated into the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. That's an amazing, astounding reality. The various aspects of it fill libraries of books. even more books than Deacon Bill has written. And it fills libraries with books. And yet, you can sit here very quietly and learn about it from a trickle of water that runs through the lives of so many people who gather here to pray. Gather in the presence of the risen Christ. Gather in the heart of the suffering Christ. Gather in the presence of our Eucharistic Christ, who has loved us so much that he chose to remain with us. And so on this fourth Sunday of Lent, we come to the theoretical midway point of Lent. And we begin now to look forward to the celebrations of Easter. We begin now to remind ourselves that the reason we enter into this is not about beating ourselves up for the ways in which we sin, but rather purifying ourselves for the great celebration. For God so loved the world that he gave us his only Son. And we have received